So now, class, we go to the environmental factors of the diseases. Okay, so as we all know, when we say environment, this is the external to the host. Okay, in which is maaring nandito yung agent. Dito nag-exist, nagsusurvive, or nag-originate yung pathogens. Okay, it could be a physical, climatologic, biologic, social, and economic. And then, class, no, in the environment, this could enhance or diminish the survival of agent, no? In which, in the environment class, kapag the more na madumi ang environment, no, the more na mas maaring mag-grow, okay, mag-survive yung mga pathogens, okay? Or it could diminish the survival of pathogens if the environment is neat, malinis, no, hindi madumi. So that could diminish the survival ng pathogens. Okay, in the environment, they serve to bring the agent, the pathogen, and the host into contact. No, maaring ma-expose si susceptible host doon sa pathogens na nag-exist in the environment. Okay, and the environment could serve as the reservoir that fosters the survival of the infectious disease agent or the infectious agent or pathogens. Okay, so reservoir class, no, in which dito, okay, sabi nga, the environment this could serve as the reservoir or kung saan maaring mag-originate, manggaling yung infectious agent bago sila mag-enter into a susceptible host, no? The living organisms or inanimate matter in which an infectious agent normally lives and multiplies, okay, in which the infectious agent depends primarily for the survival and reproduces itself in such a manner that they can be transmitted to a susceptible host, no? Susceptible host na class doon dito pumapasok yung chain of infection. Okay, di ba yung chain of infection na dapat the reservoir, the susceptible host na merong portal of entry. Okay, tapos yung mode of transmission, the portal of exit. Okay, the reservoir of the infection could be a physical environment, could be animals or insects, it could be human beings that serve as the main reservoir of the infectious agent. Okay, so in the human reservoir class, no, there are two types that could be cases and carriers. No, kapag cases, ibig sabihin class, no, si individual, si human beings na merong disease, merong infection. Okay, ibig sabihin present sa katawan niya yung infectious agent, yung pathogens na yon at nag-cause ng disease. Kaya cases. Okay? Yung carriers naman, dito pumapasok yung kay Typhoid Mary, no, na meron siya no organism, meron siya no infectious agent on her body, okay, pero hindi nagko-cause ng disease sa kanya. Okay, hindi nagko-cause ng disease sa kanya, that could be because of baka immune, no, na yung kanya katawan to that pathogens. Okay, parang parang kumbaga, they treat that organism as a part of that body, no? Hindi foreign sa kanila. Okay, kaya hindi nagko-cause ng disease. Tandaan, carriers, ibig sabihin, meron sa loob ng katawan yung organisms pero hindi siya nagko-cause ng disease. 'Di ba? Yun nga yung kay Typhoid Mary or si Mary Malone. Okay, si Mary Malone na isang cook, class na nakapag-infect siya ng maraming tao, no, doon sa prepare niyang food that hindi siya aware, hindi niya alam na siya ay carrier ng Salmonella typhi. Okay? So kapag carriers ka, nasa loob ng katawan yung organism, yung pathogens, pero hindi nagko-cause ng disease. Okay? Kapag nag-cause ng disease, yung pathogens sa loob ng katawan, that is cases, no? Bilang ng nagkaroon ng sakit from that organism. Okay. And then aside from the human reservoir, we have a animal reservoir or tinatawag siyang zoonotic diseases, no? These are diseases that can be acquired from animals, no? Infectious diseases of animals that can cause disease when transmitted to humans, such as the rabies virus, no? Na kapag ang isang aso na merong rabies virus nakagat ka, okay, that could class na yung virus na yon could transfer in the human. Okay? Kasi mag-enter yan doon sa byte. Yun yung magsiserve as a portal of entry. Okay? And then meron din yung bubonic plague, okay, or plague, that this is a disease that from a rats. Okay, from a rats. Okay, the agent factor of disease. Okay, tandaan that the infectious agent, okay, this is any element, substance, or not infectious agent, the agent, okay, the agent na maaring mag-cause ng disease in a susceptible host, no? The agent is any element, substance, or force, whether it could be living agents or non-living agents. Okay, that the presence or absence of which can initiate or perpetuate a disease process. Okay, so there are two types of agents, as I've said, the non-living agents and the living agents. Okay, non-living agents class, no, this could be mga nutritive elements, chemical agents, physical agents. Okay, so dun tayo. Ayan. Okay, non-living agents, no, could be there's a physical and mechanical. No. Okay, mga physical and mechanical factors that could give an disease, okay, in a human beings, no, such as mga extremes of temperature, light, electricity, physical trauma. Okay, second classification ng non-living agents such as the chemicals. Okay, merong exogenous at merong endogenous, no? Exogenous such as example is the poisons, no? That class in the poisons, the chemicals that is common na ginagamit for a suicidal attempt, no, such as yung carbon monoxide gas. Okay, the carbon monoxide gas. Okay, in which is this type of poisons kasi class is a colorless, odorless, no, and class ang nangyari kung bakit siya poisonous in our body. Kasi kapag once na na-inhale natin yung carbon monoxide, no, masyado mataas yung na-inhale natin na carbon monoxide, ang nangyayari, yung mga hemoglobin dapat na nandoon sa red cells natin. Kasi 'di ba, sila yung magse-serve as a oxygen doon sa mga vital organs natin na dala-dala ng ating red cells. Okay? Na which is ang nangyari, si hemoglobin class hindi siya kay red cells kakapit. Mas kakapit siya doon sa poisons na yun, sa carbon monoxide na yun. Kaya ang nangyayari, mahihirapang huminga, no, yung taong makaka-inhale nung substance na yun, nung carbon monoxide na yun. Mawawalan ng hemoglobin yung red cells. So walang oxygen na na matatransmit or madadala sa mga vital organs. Kasi lahat sila didikit kay carbon monoxide. Okay, kaya siya poisonous in our body. Exogenous. Okay, endogenous, this is a accumulation of a toxic products of a metabolism, no? Yung toxic products of our body, okay, from the metabolisms na pag hindi na excrete yan, class, no, that could be toxic in our body, no? Kaya nga 'di ba? Kaya nga nagkakaroon ng metabolism inside our body, tapos ini-excrete natin, could be through a defecation or urination. Okay, ibig sabihin kailangan silang ilabas in our body para hindi mag-accumulate ng toxic substance or toxic products. Okay, endogenous mismo nandun sa loob ng body natin. Exogenous kasi from outside, no? I-intake mga poisons, exogenous such as also yung drugs. Okay, yung mga ini-intake na medications. Na yung mga ini-intake na medications class, no? Exogenous type yun, but nagiging endogenous type siya kasi merong kapag sobra-sobra yung dosage na in-intake na drugs, no, yung mga toxic products na kanilang napuproduce class, no, na pag hindi na-excrete, okay, ayun, magkukos siya ng toxicity in our body. O yung itinatawag nila, mataas na dosage ng drugs or pag naabot yung threshold, okay, threshold ng drugs in our body. Okay? And aside from chemicals, also the nutrients, no? Kapag kulang ka ng nutrients, that could also develop a disease. Kapag naman sobra, okay, made-develop din na, magkaka-develop din ng disease. Okay? So, in the nutrients, merong deficiency agents, no? Yung merong kulang na substance, merong kulang na nutrients in your body, no? Kaya deficient. Okay? For example, the anemia, no? From a iron deficiency. Okay, which is this a most common anemia class, no? The most common type of anemia is the iron deficiency. Kulang ng iron kay yung katawan. Okay? Kaya minsan, class, no, yung anemia, ay mga anemic individual na yan, yung mga madaling mahilo, no, mga nanghihina. Kaya ayan, no, kulang kasi yung iron kasi class, no, tumutulong yan sa absorption. Okay, tumutulong yan sa absorption in our body, no, yung mga nutrients. Okay, lalo na din sa yung sa blood natin, no? Yung kung paano mag-enter yung mga nutrients in the red cells. Okay? Para matransmit sa mga vital organs. Okay? Excess agent, ito naman yung sobra-sobra, no? For example, yung sobra-sobrang intake ng mga high-fat food, mga high calories na food. Okay? That could lead to a obesity. No, that could lead to a obesity. Mataas yung cholesterol in the body. Okay, so excess agents, sobra-sobra. Okay. Next class type of agents is the living agents. Pag living agents, this is pertaining to biological organisms or mga infectious agent, mga pathogens that is capable to produce a disease. Okay, so in the living agents class, merong apat, no? Merong bacteria, okay? Merong bacteria, viruses, fungi, and the parasites. Okay, bacteria such as the tuberculosis, no? Tuberculosis caused by the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Okay, shigellosis, that is caused by a Shigella. Okay, na dito nagkaka-diarrhea. Okay, nakukuha sa mga contaminated food or water. And then, yung viruses naman such as, ayan, AIDS, no? Yung AIDS class, that is the final stage or end stage kapag once na you are infected with a HIV or yung human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, ang end stage niya yung AIDS. Okay. And then also hepatitis, maraming types ng hepatitis class. No, but the most common is the hepatitis A and the hepatitis B. No, hepatitis A nakukuha 'yun sa mga contaminated food. Okay, hepatitis B nakukuha 'yan sa mga contaminated needles. Okay? And then fungi class, no? Fungi that ang mga fungi class, ito yung parang mga mushrooms, no? That they are normal in our in the environment, no? Meron silang benefits na binibigay, meron ding harmful activities, no? Such as mga fungi na nagkukos ng hadhad, buni, alipunga. Okay, ayan, fungi ang mga nagkukos niyan. Yung kung bakit nabubulok yung mga naiiwan na mga pagkain class, no? Fungi din po ang may dahilan niyan, no? So kapag you are infected or with the fungi, no, merong common class which is the candidiasis. No, candidiasis, this is caused by a Candida albicans. Okay? Athlete's foot, ayan yung hadhad ba yun? Tama? O alipunga no, sa paa. Okay, athlete's foot. Okay, protozoans and helminths class, this is a type of a parasite infection, no? Protozoans such as the amoebiasis. Okay, kapag yung amoebiasis class, this is specifically caused by a Entamoeba histolytica, no? Na magkakaroon ka ng diarrhea. Okay? Kasi maaari na nakontam yung iyong pagkain o yung iyong inumin. Okay, na ang sabi class no in a clinical settings no kapag nagka-amoebiasis ka, they said that you are literally na nakakain ka daw ng tae. Okay, sabi. Okay, but that is not the case no. Maaring nakontam okay ng fecal matter, nakontam ng fecal parasite na yan yung food. Okay, maaari kasi class na yung nag-prepare ng food no, hindi hand wash no ng mabuti. Okay, ayan, kaya nakuntam yung prefer na food. Okay, giardiasis that also class no, this is known as traveler's diarrhea. Okay, giardiasis caused by a Giardia lamblia. Okay, Giardia or Giardia lamblia. Traveler's diarrhea. Kaya dapat class no sa mga public comfort room no, mga girls, wag basta-basta biglang uupo doon sa bowl. Okay? Di ba? As much as possible, kung kaya mag-squat, squat na lang. Okay? Pero meron din namang nabibili na toilet paper. Okay? Yung pwede mong ilagay doon sa bunganga ng bowl and then bago ka makaupo para mag-CR, no? Umihi. Okay? Kasi class, yun nga, traveler's diarrhea ang Giardia lamblia or this giardiasis. Hillman's class no, schistosoma, this is or schistosomiasis if you are infected with a schistosoma no, na this is common in in Visayas area. Okay, ascariasis caused by infection by the Ascaris lumbricoides no, mga Ascaris species class no, that they are also known as a soil transmitted no, ang kanilang okay, maaari silang makuha class no sa soil, sa lupa. Okay, class yung mga bata na mga malnourished no in a let's say mga sa squatters area class no. Minsan yung mga bata na mga malnourished, yung sobrang papayat pero ang laki ng tiyan, tapos matigas no, maaring meron yung bulate. Na class yung bulate na yun maaring yun ay worm type of ascariasis or ascaris no, na medyo delikado sa mga bata, kaya nga nauso yung mga binibigay na pampurga para mailabas yung lahat na maaring bulate na nandoon sa loob ng tiyan. Okay. Okay, now we go to the characteristics of agents of diseases, no? So there are three: the inherent characteristics, the characteristics that is directly related to a man, and characteristics that is related in the environment. Okay, the inherent characteristic class, no, such as physical features, no pathogens, no infectious agent. Okay, yung physical features ng infectious agent, no? This includes the morphology o yung itsura no infectious agent. Okay, motility class no, if this is referring doon sa motion okay ng organisms, kasi class merong mga organisms na meron yang silang flagella no, flagella in their body na nakakabit, na yun yung nagiging dahilan kung bakit nakakagalaw sila. No, yung parang sperm, 'di ba? Ang sperm is merong buntot. Okay? So parang ganun yung flagella. Okay? Pero sa organism iba nga lang. Okay? Yung flagella na yan, flagellum na yan, no, na nakadikit sa parte ng mga organisms na kaya sila nakakagalaw. Okay? And then also kasama sa physical features ng mga organisms, the presence or absence of a capsule. Okay? At class may mga capsulated na bacteria na kapag class mga ganyan, kaya inaalam no yung presence or absence ng capsule ng isang organisms kasi para malaman okay kung ano yung maaring ibigay or i-prescribe na antibiotics ng mga physician. Okay, and then also kasi class yung capsule na yan na that could serve as a parang shield no, parang shield ng mga organisms. Okay, na minsan yan ang nagre-resist kung yan ang capsule ang nagiging dahilan kung bakit mayroong resistance sa antibiotic. Okay? And then meron din po yung spore or cyst forms. Etong spore na to class, parang ito yung pulbura. no? Para siyang powdered form of the organisms. 'Di ba kung naaalala si Bacillus anthracis na ginamit as a bioterrorism agent, okay, na ang ginamit doon class is yung parang powdered form type ng organism na yon, which is yun, yung spore ang tawag doon. No, yung spore na nagamit siya as bioterrorism agent kasi nilagay siya in a letter, no, in a letter. Okay, tapos yung pagka-open, okay, wala naman silang nakita na nakasulat or what to, pero hindi nila alam na merong spore na nandoon sa letter na yun na, ayun, nalanghap. Okay, nalanghap, tapos nag-cause ng, ayun, anthracis. Okay, and then cyst forms class is, this is pertaining doon sa egg ng parasites, no, yung egg form ng parasites, no, cyst forms. Okay. Second is yung biologic requirements ng pathogens, no? This refers to the things that is needed by the agent para sila ay mag-survive. For example, class, no? Merong mga organisms na aerobic. Kapag tinawag na aerobic class, ibig sabihin, kailangan nila ng high amount ng oxygen. Kaya ng high amount ng oxygen para sila ay mabuhay, mag-survive. Okay, pag anaerobic naman class, ibig sabihin, hindi pwede na merong oxygen, mamamatay sila. Ang kailangan lang nila ay carbon dioxide. Okay, kaya anaerobic. No, yung capnophilic naman class, may mga organisms na they tend to grow in a high salt concentration. Okay, mga salt-loving sila. No, high salt-loving, capnophilic. Okay, and then in the characteristics that is related to a susceptible host such as the infectivity, pathogenicity, virulence, and immunogenicity. Okay, ito naman ay alam natin. Okay, alam na ninyo ito. Sa MLSP1 pa lang, CPHM na-discuss na siya. So, babalikan lang natin. Okay, pag sinabi natin infectivity, ito yung ability ng pathogens na infectious agent na mag-invade doon sa katawan ng susceptible host at mag-multiply sa loob ng katawan. At yun yung magkakos ng infection. Okay, infectivity, ability of the infectious agent to invade, makapasok sa loob ng katawan ng host at doon magparami, mag-multiply para mag-cause ng infection. Okay. The infectivity is dependent on a number of factors, no? That includes the viability, the portal of entry, susceptibility ng host, no? Kung mababa yung immune system ng host, so more likely na ma-develop yung infection. Pero kung at peak performance naman yung immune system ng host, no? So there could be a mild lang na infections, no? And then susceptible tissues and body defenses of the host. Pathogenicity naman class is this is the ability to produce a clinically apparent illness or kumbaga merong signs and symptoms ng ma-experience si susceptible host. Okay, yun na yung disease process, kumbaga mapasok na yung disease process, no? Pathogenicity, ability na merong ng clinically apparent illness, signs and symptoms. Okay. Virulence naman class, this is pertaining to the severity of the reaction that is produced and measured in terms of fatality, no? Kung mild ba yung infections, kung severe yung infections, no? Ayun, no? Maaring yung infections that could lead to death or fatality nga. Okay? Virulence. Last is the immunogenicity, no? This is pertaining class na yung ability ng katawan natin na mag-produce ng antibodies. Okay? Kaya immunogenicity. Kasi class, 'di ba, ang mga organisms, they are called as foreign substance, no? Which is they are a sample of antigens. Okay? Pag once na pumasok yan sila sa katawan natin, mai-stimulate nila yung katawan natin na makapag-produce ng antibody. Antibodies, that is class for the protection. Okay? Protection against to that specific agent. Okay? Specific foreign substance. Okay, immunogenicity, tandaan class, no, the antigen na pumasok sa katawan natin o yung mga infectious agent na yan na pumasok sa katawan natin, mai-stimulate nila ang katawan natin na mag-produce ng antibodies. Okay? And then, the characteristics that is related in the environment such as yung reservoir, na-tackle na natin, the sources of infection, and etong pagfo-focus na natin class is the modes of transmission. Okay? In the modes of transmission, this is referring on the mechanisms kung paano na-transport yung infectious agent from the reservoir papunta to a susceptible host. Okay? So, as we all know, class, no, that there are different types of a transmission, mode of transmission ng mga pathogens. Merong contact transmission, vehicle transmission, and vector transmission. Okay, yung contact transmission class in which there are three types of that, the direct, indirect, and the droplet. Okay, contact transmissions is when a host is exposed to the infectious agents by making contact with the agent or items that is contaminated with the pathogen. So it can reach the portal of entry into the host. Okay, so kapag direct contact, merong direct contact with the direct contact doon sa agents or doon sa items na nandun yung pathogens, no? For example, no, yung rabies virus is a direct contact kasi yung rabies virus na nandoon sa laway nung aso tapos nakagat ka. Direct contact, mayroong portal of entry. Okay? Kapag indirect contact, mayroon ditong fomites na tinatawag o yung ito yung intermediary, no? Parang carrier. Okay, katulad ng indirect contact, 'di ba, yung panyo. Okay, yung panyo na kung sino-sino gumagamit, ayan, no, maaring nandiyan yung infectious agents. Pag ginamit ng iba, ayun. Okay, yung infectious agent pathogens na maaring nandoon sa fomites na yon, okay, is ma-introduce into another susceptible host. Okay, and then the droplets, ito yung sa pagbahing. Okay, paghatching, pag-ubo. Okay, so again, direct contact transmission class, no, there is no intermediary between infected and the uninfected individuals. Ibig sabihin, meron talagang direct contact. Okay, such as touching, kissing, and sexual interactions. Okay, the disease that is transmitted through the direct contact such as hepatitis A. Okay, hepatitis A kasi class maaari, no, yung mga mahilig kumain ng mga street foods. Okay, ang pinaka-iniiwasan class diyan in the street foods is yung sausawan. Okay, kasi di ba merong mga tao na nakagatan na tapos isasawsaw pa ulit. Ayan, paano pala kung meron silang hepatitis? Okay, so yung virus na yon ay nailipat yung sausawan na kontam nila, no, nung virus na maaring present on their body. Okay. And then staphylococcal infections. Okay, direct contact yan. Okay, for example, sa pigsa class, no? Kasi pigsa is caused by a Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, na yun din ang nagko-cause ng sa pimples, no? Kaya class yung sa pimples, 'di ba? Kaya po yan sila dumadami kapag pinuputok ninyo or pag pinipisat, kumbaga, no? Na yung laman kasi no na nagko-contain ng bacteria, nagko-contain ng Staphylococcus aureus na yun, no? Maaring malagay sa ibang surface, no? Sa ibang surface on your face. Okay, kaya yun. Dumadami kasi because of doon nga sa bacteria na present doon sa nana. Okay, and then other is the sexually transmitted diseases such as yung syphilis, yung tulo, the AIDS class, no, is a sexually transmitted disease. Droplet transmission is seen in the transfer of respiratory diseases, no, such as influenza and whooping cough. Whooping cough class is caused by a Bordetella pertussis, no. Ito yung pag-ubo na para ng aso, no, para ka ng tumatahol na aso. Okay, tuloy-tuloy na pag-ubo. Okay, that this droplet transmission, it can occur through sneezing, okay, coughing, and even laughing. Okay, parang ito yung kumbaga yung latak na sinasabi nila, no, yung bigla parang yung lumalabas na laway. Okay, kapag nagsasalita ka ganyan, no, droplet po yun. 'Di ba kaya nga ang COVID-19 ay may isa sa kanilang safety protocols is yung 1 meter away. Okay? In which is yun ay para maiwasan yung droplet transmission. Okay, tapos yung mga taong mayroong mga TB, okay, may mga tuberculosis, kaya sila pinagmamask. Okay, kasi nga pag naubos sila, no, yung droplet hindi mapunta sa environment or hindi mapunta sa ibang sa kanilang sa ibang tao na maaring kausap, no, ng taong merong TB. Okay, droplet transmission. Indirect contact, as I've said, meron tayong tinatawag na fomites. Okay, fomites na yun ay parang intermediary. Okay, non-living intermediates that act as the agents of transmission by indirect contact. Okay, that referred as fomites, no? That this could take place in the tissues, handkerchiefs, towels, beddings, contaminated needles, ayan, no? Kumbaga, merong carrier, no? Merong carrier na merong carrier yung pathogens, no? Hindi directly na-introduce sa'yo yung pathogens, no? Merong kumbaga merong may dala ng pathogens na yun at na-introduce sa'yo. Kaya indirect contact, no? Fomites ang tawag doon sa intermediary na yun, na kung bakit ka na-expose to that infectious agent. Okay? And then meron yung vehicle transmission class, no? That this involves the pathogens riding along on a supposedly clean components, no? Examples such as the air, the food, water, blood, bodily fluids, drugs, intravenous fluids. Okay, vehicle transmission sa air, no? Sa air na maaring yung mga polluted air, no? Na maaring mag-cause na kung bakit may ma-develop na sakit. Okay? Yung mga taong maaaring nakaka-inhale ng maduming hangin. Okay? Food, contaminated water, no? Na maaaring nalagyan yan sila ng organisms na yun, or yung parasites na yun. Okay? Vehicle transmission. Nakain mo yung contaminated food kaya nagkaroon ng infection. Ay yung nangyari kay Mary Malone, kung bakit siya nakapag-infect ng madaming tao. Kasi yung piniprepare niyang food, kay nalagyan ng Salmonella typhi. Okay? And then, blood, okay, and bodily fluids. Di ba kaya nga isa sa mga universal precautions that treat all the blood and bodily fluids as infectious. Okay? The air is difficult a vehicle to control because the dust uses the air as a vehicle and can contain huge numbers of pathogens, no? In which sa air class, ayan, no? Yung spores, okay? Microbial spores and fungal spores that can also use the air to travel from the host to host. Okay? Mayroong mga organisms class na mayroong silang spores. Okay, na yun yung maging humalo yan sa air tas ma-inhale. Na yun nga yung nangyari sa Bacillus anthracis. Okay. Vector transmission, ibig sabihin, this is a pathogens that are transmitted by a carriers. Okay, pag vector, ibig sabihin, this involves the arthropods, no, mga insects. Okay, the fleas, ticks, flies, lice, and the most common is the mosquitoes. Okay, di ba? Dengue is a vector-borne, okay, viral disease. Yung malaria, no, it's a vector-borne also, na parasitic infection. Okay. There are two types of vector transmission such as the mechanical vector and biological vector, no? Mechanical vector, these are the pathogens that are in a vector's body parts and are passively brushed off and to the host, no? Yung mga langaw na kung saan-saan dumadapo. Tapos dadapo yan sa pagkain mo, ayan, no? Mga langaw na maari, okay, na yun, may nadapuhan silang madumi, no, na pathogens. Tapos ayun, dumapo din sa pagkain mo na contact. Okay, mechanical vector. Okay. Kumbaga nadikit lang sa parte ng katawan nila. Pag biological vector naman class, yung pathogens are within the vector na sa loob ng katawan. Okay, and then yung transmission is through the host, transmission to the host is through a bite. Okay, so yan, for example, yung sa rat, no? Yung leptospirosis. Okay? Ayan, leptospirosis yung dengue. Okay, yung dengue class, no? Hindi naman yan porkit ikaw ay may dengue, may ihawa mo yan agad. no, saka sa, let's say in a household, no, yung isang taong yung one member of the family is merong dengue, tas hindi yan agad maiihawa. Depende na nga lang kapag class, no, in the cases of dengue, kapag merong taong may dengue, di ba, hina-hospital na agad, ina-isolate na kasi class, no, pag yan ay nakagat ng lamok, yung lamok na yon maaring kumagat yun ng iba at mai-introduce sa iba yung virus na kanyang nasipsip doon sa patient, doon sa individual na merong dengue virus. Okay? So, biological vector na sa loob ng katawan ng vector yung virus at kailangan niyang makakagat ng host para mailipat. Pag mechanical, nasa labas lang, nasa body parts lang ng vector. Okay, yan, mga langaw, yung mga flies na yan. Okay, mga ticks na yan. Okay, now the host. Okay, the host and the susceptible host, that this goes through a chain of events that leading from a inapparent infection to a clinical case of a disease. Okay, so there are gradient of the infections, merong in the range of the infections, okay, from inapparent to a severe diseases, no? In which class sa host, depende yan sa kanilang immune system. Okay, kung mababa ang kanilang immune system, mga immune compromised host class, no, ayan, maaring yung infection sa kanila ay severe. Okay? Pero kapag okay naman ang immune system, okay, at peak yung performance ng immune system, so maaaring mild lang yung i-cause na disease or na infection. Okay, the host severity of illness is depends on the resistance of the host or yung immunity level nga, as I've said, no? And result of the infection, it could be of these four, no? Complete recovery. There is a permanent disability or disfigurement, okay? And the fatal, okay, or it could lead to death, and chronicity. Okay, or pagiging naging chronic na yung disease. Basta tandaan, in the host class, yung severity ng illness, nakadepende po yan sa immunity level or sa immune system. Okay? So these are the characteristics of the host. Okay? As we all know, meron tayong mga non-specific defense mechanism, no, such as the skin. Okay? Sa skin class, no, which is that is a physical barrier, no, na kapag nagkaroon ng abrasions, ng sugat on the skins, yan ang magsiserve as a portal of entry. Okay? And then, mucosal surfaces, no? And then the tears class, no? Yung tears na meron niyang IgA, no? Immunoglobulin A. Okay? Saliva also, no? And then the acid pH of the gastric juices. Acid pH of gastric juice in our stomach, no? And then the phagocytes and macrophages class that is present in our body or in our blood. Na kapag may nag-enter na foreign body, okay? Unang-una class, no? Magiging successful lang naman ang invasion or invading ng mga organisms class kapag nagkaroon ng portal of entry. Na yun nga, no? Yung skin na yan ang pinaka barrier, no, physical barrier ng mga physical barrier for the pathogens na kapag nagkaroon ng sugat, abrasions, ayan, no, mag-enter sila diyan, tapos papasok sa ating body system. Okay, and then klase mga present na phagocytes and macrophages in our body, in our blood, pupuntahan agad yan nila, no, pag na-detect nila na merong foreign bodies, ayan, sila agad ang pupunta doon sa site na kung saan nagmumultiply yung organisms, no, para i-engulf yan nila, no, para na i-neutralize nila or patayin nila. Okay, and then also the defense mechanism that is could be depend on the age, nutrition status, and also the genetic factors. Okay, and there are other concepts that is related to the causation. Okay, so there is a necessary versus the sufficient cause. Okay, necessary cause, these are the factor that must be present for the disease to occur, no? It must invariably precede an effect. Ibig sabihin, meron munang kailangan na factor para mag-proceed yung disease. Okay, the factor that must be present for the disease to occur, or for example, class, no, dapat meron munang organism na present in the body para mag-cause ng infections in the body. Okay, sufficient cause, there's a cause that inevitably initiates or produce an effect. Okay, that this includes a component causes, no? Any given cause may be necessary, okay, may be sufficient, or it could be both. Okay. Okay, these are the types of a causal relationship. Okay, necessary insufficiency. No, without the factor, the disease never develops. Okay, with the factor, disease always develops. Okay, in which is, ayun class, no, kapag kunwari, yung organisms, no, pumasok yan sa loob ng katawan natin. Okay, na kapag mahina ang immune system, class, no, maaring mag-develop ng disease, no, mag-cause ng there is a clinical apparent illness. Okay, kapag present yung disease na yun, no, yung organisms na yun, tas mababa ang immune system. Pero class, okay, kapag naman nandun nga yung organisms, okay, pero nandun yung organisms tapos okay yung immune system natin, no, hindi magde-develop yung disease na yan. Okay, necessary but not sufficient, no, the factor in and of itself is not enough to cause disease. Okay, ibig sabihin nga class, okay, na kung yung organisms na yon present in your body, okay, tapos okay yung immune system, ayan, hindi okay yung immune system, no, mai-inhibit niya agad yung harmful effect ng foreign bodies na yon na pumasok sa katawan. Okay, necessary but not sufficient to cause a disease. Multiple factors are required, okay, usually in a specific temporal sequence, no, such as yung mga carcinogenesis class, no. Yung mga carcinogens na maaaring nai-intake natin class, magde-develop lang ng disease dyan kapag okay, sobra-sobra na yung presence nila in sobra-sobra na yung carcinogen substance in our body, tapos mahina, hindi na din kumbaga hindi sila na metabolize ng katawan natin. Ayan, maaring mag-cause, okay, ng disease. Okay, sufficient but not necessary. The factor alone can cause disease, but so can the other factors in its absence. Okay, such as the benzene or yung radiations that can cause leukemia without the presence of the other. Ibig sabihin, if you have a long exposure to the radiation, that can cause leukemia. Okay, hindi yan yung kailangan pa ng yung radiations ay kailangan pang samahan ng organisms or kailangan pang meron siyang kasamang organisms para mag-cause ng leukemia on that individual. Hindi, no? Kahit yung radiations lang, long exposure to a ultraviolet radiations class, no, can cause leukemia. Okay, so that is an example of sufficient but not necessary. Okay, neither sufficient nor necessary, the factor cannot cause disease on its own, nor it is the only factor that can cause the disease. Okay, that this is a probable model for a chronic disease relationship, no? 'Di ba pag mga chronic disease kasi class, no, they are from acute disease na slowly nagpo-progress, no? Bakit nagpo-progress into a chronic disease? Kasi maraming factors. Okay, maraming factors yung kung bakit siya nagpo-progress into a chronic state of disease. Okay, herd immunity class. Okay, ito yung ina-achieve kung bakit tayo binigyan ng vaccine for a COVID-19. Okay, okay, immunity of a group or immunity of a community. Resistance of a group to the invasion and the spread of an infectious agent based on the immunity of a high proportion of individual members of the group. Ibig sabihin class, no, kung lahat tayo ay bakunado with the for example, no, ng COVID-19 vaccines, no, kung lahat tayo ay nabigyan ng COVID-19 vaccines, no, there's a tendency na hindi na ganun dadami or madadagdagan pa yung cases ng mga may COVID. Kasi lahat na tayo ay bakunado. No? Na maaring hindi tayo maka-infect, maaring hindi rin tayo ma-infect ng severe form ng infection na yon. Okay? In which is class, ang sa vaccine doesn't mean na you will not get infected by the coronavirus. No, ma-infect ka pero mild lang yung infection sa'yo. Okay? Kesa naman sa wala kang vaccine tapos na-infect ka ng virus na yon. So that could lead to a fatality or severe form of the infection. Okay? In the herd immunity class, no, ang ini-aim dyan is yung immunity of the high proportion ng individual. Okay? Individual in the community. Okay? Para maiwasan nga yung spreading, no, ng disease at maiwasan din yung fatality or yung severe form ng disease na yon. Okay, herd immunity. Okay, now we go to the natural history of the disease. Okay, so in the natural history of disease class, no, there are two phases such as the prepathogenesis and the pathogenesis phase. Okay, yung prepathogenesis class, this is a phase before man is involved, no, which is yung interaction of the agent, the host, and environmental factors. Bago kumbaga sa prepathogenesis class, yung infectious agent nasa environment pa lang. Okay, nasa environment pa lang, wala pa doon sa host. Okay, mag-i-infect, papasok pa lang siya sa host, sa susceptible host. Pag pathogenesis, ibig sabihin, nakapasok na si pathogen sa loob ng katawan ng susceptible host at pag na-establish na, nakapag-multiply na siya doon sa loob ng katawan, saka mag-cause ng illness. Okay, pathogenesis. Okay, progression of a disease process in an individual over time in the absence of treatment. Okay, so this is the flow of the natural history or the disease timeline, no, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, the stage of susceptibility, tapos pag once na na-expose ka, okay, there is a stage of subclinical diseases, no, kung dito yung incubation period kumbaga. Okay, the incubation period. Okay. Okay, so there are stages of susceptibility class. Okay, the this stage of susceptibility, pre-exposure period in the pre-exposure period in the natural history of disease, no, in which the individual in the population is vulnerable or at risk na ma-acquire yung infection. Okay, or ma-acquired or sila ay ma-expose. Okay, kaya stage of susceptibility, maaring ma-exposed to a pathogens. Okay, that during this stage of susceptibility, the individual in the population does not have the disease or walang infection, pero nandun yung factor na baka sila ay ma-expose. Okay, ma-expose to the infectious agent. Okay, maaaring nasa environment tapos ma-expose sila. Okay, kaya stage of susceptibility. Okay, the susceptibility stage ends with the effective exposure. Okay, or kapag once na na-expose ka na, hindi ka na tinatawag na susceptible host. Okay, you are infected individual. Okay, prepathogenesis. So ito yung ito yung stage of the susceptibility. Wala kang infection nor a disease. Okay, ma-expose ka pa lang doon sa microorganism or doon sa pathogens. Okay, tapos once na pumasok yan sa loob ng katawan, doon mangyayari yung adaptation ng katawan. Okay, doon mangyayari yung adaptation ng katawan. Okay, so risk factors. Okay, risk factors na maaaring ma-develop na risk factors for a exposure in the pathogens class, no, such as yung mga mababa ang immune system. Okay, poor health and nutrition or lack of immunity. Okay, mababa ang immune system, mababa na ma-resist nila yung infection from that organism. Okay, behaviors that increase the opportunity for the exposure. Adaptation that this failure ng katawan natin na ma-adopt yung pathogens na na-expose tayo could leads to the pathogenesis, no? Adaptations this is referring doon sa immune system po natin, okay? That this could give a immediate response of the body, okay? Or yung immune system natin, no? Yung mga ating immune cells, no? Kung ma-inhibit o mapapatay nila yung pathogens na nag-enter in our body. Na kapag hindi class, no, okay, hindi nila maagapan yung harmful effect ng foreign bodies in our body, okay, this could lead to the pathogenesis. Meron clinical apparent illness. Okay? Failure of our body class na mag-response doon sa pathogens na yon, infectious agent na yon, could lead to pathogenesis. Okay, yung paglabas ng signs and symptoms. Okay, stage of pre-symptomatic disease, meron tayong subclinical stage. Okay, that this is the etiological factors are present in the body and are causing a pathological changes. But wala pang any signs or symptoms, no? Kaya subclinical stage. Okay, in this stage, there is no manifestation of the disease, but there is a pathogenic changes that have started to occur. O yan, maaaring pathogenic changes that have started to occur, yung there is a lalagnating ka, no? Ayun. The time required for the agent to establish itself, multiply and produce toxins is yung tinatawag nating incubation period. Okay? Sa incubation period. Okay, subclinical stages of disease. Okay, incubation period, asymptomatic. Okay, as in walang pang manifestations, any signs or symptoms that is related doon sa infections. Okay, incubation period, this is the time between the exposure up to the onset of the symptoms. Latency period, ito naman yung time between the exposure to a causal factor and the disease detection. Okay. Okay. And then class, after the subclinical stage, no, is yung stage ng clinical disease. Then dito, nandoon na yung onset ng signs and symptoms, no? Stage of clinical disease is refers to the period of time at the onset. Meron ng signs and symptoms na lumabas. Okay, signs or symptoms of the disease. Sufficient end organ changes have occurred so that there are recognizable signs or symptoms of disease. Okay, that the outcomes of this stage may be recovery, disability, or death. Okay. It is important to subdivide the stage for better management of the cases on and for the purposes of epidemiological study. Stage of disability, no, kapag hindi complete this recovery from the disease class, no, this could lead to a disability, no, or yun class na in the yung sa mga taong mayroong polio class, kasi yun matagal pag nakagat ka kasi nung vector na may dala ng polio virus na yun class, no, matagal yung incubation period ng class. Aabutin talaga ng ilang taon para bago malaman na you are infected by the polio virus, no. Hindi lumalaki yung muscle tone on the right leg, on the leg. Okay. Some diseases run their course and then resolve completely either spontaneously or by treatment. No, pag hindi naagapan yung disease class, no, yung infections na yon, it could lead to a disability. Okay? Pag hindi naagapan ng treatment, could lead to disability or to a fatality. Okay, so ito, no, this is the period of the prepathogenesis, yung before pa lang ma-involve yung susceptible host. Okay, so si pathogens ay nandun pa lang sa environment. Okay, so dito primary prevention. Okay, period of pathogenesis, dito yung organism nag-infect na doon sa yung organism na expose na yung susceptible host at nag-cause na ng changes, pathological changes in the body. Okay, kaya lumabas yung signs and symptoms. Okay? Okay, so in the pathogenesis, merong subclinical, clinical, and the outcome. Wait lang. Okay, so there are different levels of prevention, no? Meron tayong primordial, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Okay? So primordial, meron tayong primordial before the risk factors, the primary prevention sa prepathogenesis, secondary prevention sa subclinical or clinical stage, and tertiary is middle to late clinical disease or stage. Okay, so ito yung level of prevention. Okay, primordial prevention, no? This prevent the development of the risk factors. Okay, yung factors na maaaring kung bakit ma-expose yung individual from the disease. Okay, primary prevention, this is manage the risk factors that could prevent the onset of the disease. Okay, and then in the onset of the disease, okay, kung hindi na manage yung risk factors na expose to that pathogens class, no, and antayin yung incubation period, okay, tapos pag once na in the onset of the disease, no, or the incubation period, so asymptomatic disease, okay, asymptomatic disease or walang signs and symptoms, no. So secondary prevention, kailangan ng early diagnosis or early diagnosis para mabigyan ng prompt treatment. Okay? And then clinical diagnosis kapag meron ng apparent na signs and symptoms na yun class ay kailangang maagapan. Kasi yung clinical course na yun or yung apparent signs and symptoms na yun class is could result into a complete recovery or could result into a fatality or disability. No? Kaya nandun na yung tertiary prevention. Okay, ma-reduce yung complications, any complications. Okay, so